Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and I'm going to be bringing you the best, or at least in my opinion, best 20 or so Easter eggs and references that I've found so far in this game. And some of these are ones that I noticed right away on my own, some are ones that other people pointed out to me in videos. So with all that being said, let's just dive on in and start it off. So the first one can be found here in the Trotsky Castle region, and I will try to keep these grouped up by map so that way we're not jumping back and forth. But we're going to be down here by the Lower Semine Mill fast travel location. You can see we're at this woodcutter's clearing here, down in this little area where I've got this little flag pin pop. And you'll find yourself in the woods here, and if you go up in towards this kind of like, there's between two trees there's a rock here, you'll find a reference to the game Elden Ring. So this is a reference to the Let Me Solo Her person who helped fight against Melania in that game. So the reference here being that this is what it looked like. So we've got the poppy coming out, which reminds me of the Scarlet Bloom from Elden Ring, which is cool. But we've got basically a naked character, dual wielding some basic swords with a pot on the head, which, you know, is iconic if you're familiar with the Let Me Solo Her meme. Whether or not you ever encountered that player in the game, you've probably seen the meme. So that is an Elden Ring reference. So starting us off strong with an Elden Ring reference. Our second one is going to be the crashed UFO. And for this one, you're going to be heading, we're still in the Trotsky map, but down into the southeastern corner of the map. So the closest fast travel point is the Nebakov Fortress. And you can see we're all the way over here. And as you approach it, you'll find this clearing, and you'll actually see a plume of smoke billowing up into the air. So we're just going to head towards that plume of smoke. And just out of reach, because we are at the edge of the map, we can't go any further, you can see that there is a crashed UFO. So let's go as far as we can, which I believe I have. Now we'll go into photo mode and see if we can go any further. We can't really get any closer, but you can see there is a crashed UFO outside of where we can reach. So maybe if I go this way a little bit, I'll get a better view. Yeah, it's right over there though. So that is our second reference and or Easter egg that you can find in this game. And again, that's where I am on the map. Let's move on to our third one. Our next reference is a Beetlejuice reference, and you're going to find this one between the towns of Troskowitz and Zhelyov. So here we are in the woods there. The closest thing to it is the poacher's hideout, which you can see I'm right on top of. And once you've come to this area, you're going to be looking for this little cliff edge, and you can come around and you can see on the ground here what appears to be a deflated skeleton with a shrunken head, and this is a reference to the character Harry the Hunter from Beetlejuice. So we'll just take a closer look. Photo mode. So there you go. You can see we've got a fairly comical representation of Harry the Hunter here. So this is our Beetlejuice reference in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Our next Easter egg and or reference is going to be to the time the Mexican government tried to convince everyone they had found some alien skeletons, which is an interesting enough news story if you've never heard of that. But we're going to find this one in the woods up above the Nomad Camp travel point, or the Rock Tower Pond travel point, or below the Vidlock Pond one. So we're kind of in a little triangle between them, but if you zoom in, you can see right about where I have this flag is where you're going to find it. In the open world, you'll be standing in the woods and you'll see a slightly darker patch of bushes here. If you go towards those bushes and go inside, you will find exactly what it looked like when, like I said, this was presented before, I believe, the Mexican Congress, or whatever their legislative body is, but yes, these are the Mexican alien skeletons, so I love that that was put into the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 experience, but yes, you can find them sitting in the woods. So our next reference in the Trotsky Castle region is going to be also here over in the woods, so not far from where we just were. We're pretty close to the Rock Tower Pond fast travel point, and you can see where I've got the flag pinned right up here in the woods. That's the location you're going to want to go to, and this is what it will look like. So this is a King Arthur reference, so we have a sword in the stone here. You know, just a long sword sticking out of some rock pile in the woods. That being said, it's just a weapon stub. And to the best of my knowledge, you cannot reforge it into any of the different Arthurian swords, which is a shame. I really wish the weapon stubs in this game that you found you could reforge into something. It was what I thought they would be initially, and so I was collecting them, only to find out that is not the case. So I just leave it here. But definitely a pretty cool Arthurian sword in the stone reference. Alright, so our next Easter egg is another one in the Trotsky Castle region. You can see where I've got my pin located. Our closest fast travel point is Vidlock Pond. We're pretty close to the charcoal burners camp. And if you zoom into right where I've got my pin put, you'll find a bunch of Harry Potter references all jammed together. So first of all, we have what is clearly a willow tree sitting here, a reference to the Whomping Willow. And as backup for that, we have a crashed carriage here, which is a reference to when Ron crashed his father's flying car into that tree. And we also have what appears to be Harry with a golden snitch in his mouth on his broom caught in the tree. And now, obviously, Harry never did that in the books or the movies, but he did catch a snitch in his mouth, and his first broom, his Nimbus 2000, did in fact get smashed by the Whomping Willow in his 3rd year. So lots of Harry Potter type references here right in Kingdom Come Deliverance too. So there's our batch of Harry Potter references. Our next reference is going to be one of several Lord of the Rings references in the game, and it is hobbit holes. And you can find these near Troskowitz. The closest thing to it is the bench under Trosky, so that's right where we are. And you'll find 3 holes in the side of this hill here, but one of them in particular is the one that I would consider the most hobbit hole-y, because you can see what appears to actually be a door. So if we scooch a little bit closer, it's not a green door and it doesn't have a doorknob on it, but I would say that is fairly obviously a reference to a hobbit hole. Now that being said, it's not a great reference, because a hobbit hole is not a nasty, dirty, wet hole in the ground. It means comfort. So there's the first one, and then if we go over here, you can find a couple more. These ones don't have doors, though. So there's one right there. There's another one down there. So could be anything, but in my opinion, seems like it's a reference to, you know, hobbit holes from the Lord of the Rings. So that is our first of several Lord of the Rings references that I found in the game. Our next reference is going to be a Skyrim reference, one of several you'll find in the game, and you'll find it right here between Devil's Den and Grund when you, well, usually right when you first get to the Kuttenberg region if you are traveling from Devil's Den to Grund. You'll either ride up and find him sleeping along the side of the road, or if you're fast traveling, if you've already been there and you somehow didn't go through here, you'll come upon him. So if you explore the place, you'll find him lying on the ground right here, asleep. And you can talk to him, and if you do, this is where you'll see the Skyrim reference, which I'll show you.
Ah. Now, I heard of a bloke who took an arrow to the knee.
Ha! To the knee? That's nothing. You could go dancing the next day with a scratch like that. But have you ever heard of anyone who took one to the head and lived to tell the tale?
I can't say I have.
And that is the Skyrim reference. So it's a reference to, of course, everyone's favorite line from Skyrim, being asked if you make it up into the Cloud District very often. No, wait, never mind. That one had to do with something about an arrow in the knee. So that's our Skyrim reference, or at least one of them. I've seen several other ones, but that's the one that I was able to repeat for you here for this video. So let's move on to our next Easter egg and/or reference. Our next reference is going to be found a little bit further past where we were. So we were at Grund, now we're down by Sedlitz Monastery. And for this one, you're going to be heading to the eastern corner of the monastery graveyard. So we're going to be heading towards this guard tower, or whatever you want to call it, watchtower, that we can see at the corner of the graveyard here, and headed into these bushes here. And if you do so, you can find a little camp, and what's the reference here is a Dark Souls reference. So we have a weapon stub sitting in a burning fire. This is a reference to the Dark Souls bonfires that you would find, and I don't want to say save your progress, but essentially give yourself a respawn point in Dark Souls. So that's our Dark Souls reference in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Our next one can be found up here in the woods up above Raborsch and Bahunowitz. You can see where I've got my flag and character at the cottage in the woods right here, and that's where we're going to be going. And this one is a Snow White and the Seven Dwarves reference, so quite a few details involved in this one. First of all, we can see a table set with a regular-sized chair and then 7 small chairs set around it, along with, you know, regular-sized bowl and cup and then smaller ones all around it. Then we can see some teeny tiny little dwarf-looking clothing hanging on the line, and then a regular full-size piece of clothing. And if we go inside the house, we can see 7 little beds laid out with some little hats and clothing and stuff on them. And on the bed, we can see a person who appears to be dead or maybe just asleep, but she doesn't appear to be rotten. And we see a bitten apple sitting next to her head. So a fairly well thought out Snow White and the Seven Dwarves reference. I would say this one is a bit on the nose because I recognized it right away when I walked up. I wasn't even a bit confused. I saw the table and already had suspicions, but then when I walked inside, I had it right away. So that's Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Our next couple references are going to be some different horses, which if you played the first game and were familiar with the horses in that one, you probably know that Warhorse likes putting some Easter eggs and or references in there. And the first one I noticed out of them was here at the Grund stables, so you can see that that is where we are. And you'll find Bill here, a nice little horse with halfway decent stats, not great stamina, but pretty great carrying capacity, halfway decent speed, and pretty bad courage, but overall, not that horrible of a horse. Pretty good looking animal too. But you might not recognize the reference. I did immediately, because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, because this is, of course, a Lord of the Rings fan to a famous character from Lord of the Rings, Bill the Pony. But if we go and talk to the horse salesman, the groom Hannah, about it, you'll see even more of an Easter egg.
Tell me something about Bill.
He's a bit foolish, but kind. He'll go wherever you go, and he's very calm. He doesn't take fright easily. These 4 old fellas left him here. They were traveling God knows where, and Bill was carrying all sorts of packs on his back. They were these little fellas who went barefoot, and and they were looking for an inn. I reckon they sold poor Bill so they could buy a hot dinner. I mean, they couldn't even afford shoes.
And so there you have it. 4 strange fellows that don't wear shoes looking for an inn, and the horse was carrying a lot on its back. So Bill the Pony was it's actually a little bit messed up, but I get why they did with the references. But Bill the Pony was acquired by the hobbits when they got to Bree because they had lost all of their horses, and it was the only one they could get there because all of theirs were scared off, or ponies, I should say. And it accompanied them all the way through Weathertop to Rivendell, and then all the way to the Gates of Moria before being turned back. So Bill the Pony is, of course, a great reference to Lord of the Rings for anyone who is a fan of the books. So that's our Bill the Pony reference. Our next horse reference is going to be found at the Kuttenberg stables. And so for this one, just in case you're not overly familiar with it, we're by this Kuttenberg fast travel point, and we're over here by the horse trader. And you'll find this horse here, whose name is Kinksum. And you can see pretty solid stats, including a speed stat of 60, making it the fastest horse in the game as far as, base stats are concerned. And this is a reference that was pointed out on my horse video by a viewer, and then I looked it up, about a Hungarian thoroughbred racehorse that happens to hold the longest undefeated record of any racehorse ever. And that is because it won 54 straight races in a row, which is crazy. The next highest one is like 25, so this is clearly like the best racehorse that ever existed. And Kinksum in Hungarian translates to my precious, which is, of course, sounds like a Lord of the Rings reference, but I won't chalk it up to another one, just because this is a real-life horse that existed, and like I said, was probably the most famous and prolific racehorse ever in the entire world.
With a name like Kinsham, I reckon she's not from here, eh?
That she isn't. Her name means my treasure in Hungarian. One of Sigismund's lieutenants, from Kisber or thereabouts, sold her to me. He needed a war horse, and Kinsham certainly isn't that. She's more of a racehorse, to tell you the truth. With the right rider, she flies like the wind.
Alright, so I mispronounced the name, it's Kincham. But anyway, you see, Hungarian racehorse, famous reference. So there we go, got another horse reference. Next up we have another horse reference, this time at the Malashov stables. So if you are looking for this one, it'll be between Malashov and Old Loda. You'll find a horse trader here. And this one is going to be Artax, and this is a reference to the horse from the Neverending Story, which I've actually never seen. This was another one that was pointed out on one of my videos. But you can see pretty solid stats all the way across the board, decent stamina, capacity, speed, courage, and value. So not a bad horse overall.
Tell me something about Artax.
He's a strange horse, that one. Some labourers brought him here on a wagon. Said they found him abandoned, up to his haunches in a marsh. They used a pair of oxen to pull him out and brought him here. He looked like he was at death's door. So I did what I could. I stayed with him all through the night. In the morning, I woke up on the straw, and it was like he was a whole different animal. Healthy, full of life, and a lot smarter than most other horses.
And so there you go, that's a reference to the Neverending Story and how the horse died in that story, getting stuck in a swamp and left there and everything. So that is Artax from the Neverending Story. Let's move on to our next horse-related reference. Our next one's going to be at the same location, so we're still at the Malashov Groom, and we're going to be talking about Khartoum this time, who is another horse here. And this one is a reference to the film The Godfather. This is the racehorse that was decapitated in the film The Godfather to intimidate Jack Woltz in the film. It was a Triple Crown winner that he had purchased and was put out to stud because, it was obviously quite the horse that a lot of people wanted. And so I'm not going to go through the entire plot of how this horse was in The Godfather, but that's the reference.
Khartoum. What kind of horse is he?
This high-born noble sold him to me. God knows where he got him from. He ran up some debts and said his creditors were threatening to kill the horse if he didn't pay up. So he decided to part ways with him. At least he could pay off some of his debts with the money he got for him. But God knows, the fellow was clearly a bit dodgy. The horse was underfed and flea-ridden. Neglected he was. I fed him up, combed him, and gave him a proper run out. Now he's worth 3 times what I paid for him.
And so there's our Godfather reference, and that does it as far as I'm aware of all of the different horse references. I'm sure there's other ones, like there's a horse here named Crow. It's black. That could be a reference, for all I know, to the fact that the Night's Watch characters in Game of Thrones are called crows by the wildlings, and they wear black. I don't know. If you know of any of the other horse references in the game, definitely let me know down in the comments section. But let's move on to our next Easter egg. Our next reference could be just to the classic Puss in Boots story, but I'm going to call it a Shrek reference. reference, or Shrek 2 reference to be specific. And this one can be found down by Kuttenberg. You can see where we are located, not far from the north gate of Kuttenberg here. We're by another gate and bridge here. And on the outside of the wall, inside this little subwall area, you can find a bush sitting here, and in that bush you will find a cat with a sword in its mouth, with boots on its back legs, and a pouch behind it with a bunch of what appears to be Groschen that we cannot pick up scattered on the ground. So this could be a reference, like I said, to just the story of Puss in Boots, which of course predates Shrek, but I like to think of it as a Shrek reference. So that is Puss in Boots in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So our next reference is also going to be in Kuttenberg here. This time we are down by this gate, heading out towards the smithy and mine area, and you'll find this corner garden kind of fenced in here, and if you get inside of it, and you go over to the southwest corner, or south-southwest corner of the little garden in here, you'll find some bushes. And if you go inside these bushes, it gets a little dense, but you'll be able to find, if you kind of wiggle around it long enough, there we go, some stairs heading down. There we go, we found them. And once we go down these stairs, you'll find a door that has a very hard lock. And once we've unlocked that, we go inside and we can find the developer room for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which I find to be quite amusing. So we've got just a whole bunch of skeletons all sitting at their desks designing things. So we have this one here is clearly working on a map of Kuttenberg. We have some sketches and stuff for, like, this appears to be the inside of a monastery would be my guess, or some sort of cathedral. We've got other things, a bunch of words here that could actually be real script, but it is definitely too small and probably in a different language for me to read. See, some of them are drinking. This one here, it died apparently while pinning things up on the wall. So yes, that one's sitting under his desk. So lots of jokes here, I assume, about developers being locked in a small room having to work until they die. But that appears to be the reference that we have here. So that's another one. So our next reference can be found down in the woods south of Kuttenberg. So we've gone down into, following this road along the river into the woods where my guy's located right here. Pretty close to the town of Bylany and the Danemark fast travel points. So we are down here at the old massive tree. And this is one that I showed in one of my videos. I found this strange straw hat sitting here on this rock, and apparently this is a reference to the character Luffy from a show called One Piece. I am not at all familiar with this in any way. This was something pointed out to me in my video showing different locations and treasures you can find around the Kuttenberg region. People pointed this out as if I was crazy for not getting the reference, but apparently this is a One Piece reference. So, I mean, if you want to go down in the comment section below and explain to me why it's so weird that I haven't heard of One Piece or know what this is, do so. But that's our One Piece Easter egg. And so our next reference here is also in Kuttenberg, but this time it's in the underground. So you can see right where my character is located on the map in Kuttenberg. We're of course not located right there. We are underground in the tunnels, but this is a vampire reference. So if you find it down in here, I don't know if it's a reference to any specific vampire media or just a conglomeration of all of them, but we can find a person here who appears to be wearing cleric's robes, but he is in a coffin. He has a wooden stake jammed into his heart. There's a crucifix lying on top of him, and there's just a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, we've got tons of garlic all around. There's of course a skull there. We've got a golden chalice sitting here, so definitely very vampire feeling here. And as far as I know, having played the game a lot, it's never referenced at all. So I'm going to have to go and assume that it is just a straight up Easter egg. So that's our vampire Easter egg. Our next reference is the Chamberlain's Ring, which I just have to assume is a reference. And this is one that you can actually get your hands on only through one specific mission. This is one that if you follow the Miller path to making your way into the wedding way at the beginning of the game, this is a ring that will be given to a female character, and you can get it from her to give it to the Chamberlain just so he doesn't think she's a thief, and you can either give it to him or choose to keep it. If you keep it, you'll notice that it is a plain gold ring. It doesn't have anything specific about it in the description, so it's just a clean plain gold ring, but it reduces your conspicuousness by 80 and your visibility by 30. So I want to say, given the fact that we have a simple gold ring and it makes you far less visible, I'm going to go ahead and assume this is another Lord of the Rings reference. Just not as on the nose as the other ones that we've seen so far, where this one is a reference to the One Ring. So if you want to be stealthy, this is a good one to go with because it helps with your conspicuousness and visibility, much like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings. So there's our One Ring reference. Our next reference is another item. This is one that I discovered when making my best longswords video on the channel. But after you reforge the guild longsword, after doing the mission that is associated with that, it will have a new description, and that description will be, very bright was that sword when it was made whole again. The light of the sun shone redly in it, and the light of the moon shone cold, and its edge was hard and keen. This is a one-to-one exact reference to the description that you get in the Lord of the Rings books of Anduril, which is Aragorn's sword reforged from the shards of Narsil. So I thought it sounded familiar when I was reading it in that video, and I was pretty sure it was how Anduril was described in the books, and I was right. It is. It's exactly word for word the description of Anduril from Lord of the Rings. So that is another excellent Lord of the Rings Easter egg in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And our last Easter egg can be found in Sigismund's camp in the Kuttenberg region, and this one is actually one that is fairly prominent in the game. You'll find a character here named Musa of Mali, and this is actually a reference to the 2001 American fantasy comedy starring Martin Lawrence called Black Knight, where a character played by Martin Lawrence is transported into the Middle Ages into an area where he doesn't fit in and, quite frankly, doesn't look like anyone else around him, and so therefore is treated as an outsider, as he would be, because it would be extraordinarily uncommon to see anyone like him in that region. Or this could be an even deeper cut reference to when Daniel Vavra referenced that film as a answer to a question of whether or not there would be any black characters in Kingdom Come Deliverance, when he pointed out, rightly so, that it would be ridiculous to see a black person in 1400s Bohemia. And so that is an expertly placed Easter egg in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So Musa of Mali is our final Easter egg in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And that is it. So I don't know, that was around 20. I'll probably have them numbered when I'm editing the video, but as of right now, I'm not exactly sure. But that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found all these Easter eggs as entertaining as I did. But that's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.